Welcome to Yahoo Finance Sports Report, a unique look at the business of sports, brought to you by Yahoo Finance and Yahoo Sports. I'm your host, Joe Pompliano, and I'm here to coach you through the financial game. We'll look beyond the headlines, analyze all the latest sports news, the teams, trades, and billion-dollar deals, so you and your portfolio will win big. This week, we're talking about a potential NWSL expansion, the college football playoffs, and taking a look at Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy's new golf league, TGL. Plus, we've got Olympic gold medalist and captain of the Boston Fleet, Hilary Knight, dropping by the show to talk all things PWHL. Let's huddle up and get right into it. All right, it's time for this week's Pomps Playbook, where I take a look at some of the biggest headlines in sports that you and your portfolio need to know. Let's kick things off with the NWSL. The NWSL is in the news right now because they're negotiating with a group from Denver for the league's next expansion team, bypassing bids from Cleveland and Cincinnati. But the reason why this is such a big deal is because Sportico is reporting that the expansion fee that's being discussed for this new team is worth more than $100 million, and potentially up to $120 million. That's more than 2 times the previous NWSL expansion fee, which was the most and the highest expansion fee ever paid for a team in U.S. women's sports history. The Denver group plans to build their own soccer-specific stadium, similar to what we've seen in Kansas City. The NWSL has also recently added 3 new teams, the Utah Royals, Bay FC, and a Boston-based team that's joining the league in 2026. But the latter 2 teams pay just $53 million as opposed to more than $100 million for this new team. This is in line with what we've seen in the NWSL over the last few years. The Women's Soccer League signed a new media rights deal worth $240 million, and that has exploded team valuations. Angel City FC leads the way at $250 million, but even the average NWSL club is now worth more than $100 million, a 57% jump year over year. The next thing I want to talk about is the Philadelphia City Council approving a new $1.3 billion arena for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, this new 18,500-seat arena project called 76 Place by the franchise has been in the works for months, and it was recently approved on a 12-5 vote for the arena to be built in Center City. The location of the arena is in a place called Market East, which covers an area from City Hall to the Liberty Bell. The 76ers are moving into the arena to be planned by 2031, so we still got a few months to go here. But the team has said they also do not plan to see any public construction funding, although they will be able to get state and federal funds for 76 Place if they decide to at a future date. The team will not have to pay any property taxes for the arena and instead will pay a $6 million fee in annual payments. There were many protesters at this vote from the Chinatown community because they're worried about traffic gridlock on game days and higher rent as a result of the Sixers arena. But at this point, it seems like all signs are a go, where the Philadelphia 76ers are going to be getting a new $1.3 billion arena in that Center City area. This is part of a larger trend that we've seen in sports more recently with all of these sports teams, whether it's across the NFL or NBA or MLB, it doesn't really matter. They're all trying to build these new venues with mixed-use developments around them. Next up, I want to talk about the WNBA's A'ja Wilson, who recently signed a 6-year extension with Nike for one of the richest shoe deals for a women's basketball player ever. Now, A'ja Wilson has been with Nike for a long period of time, and she's very clearly one of the WNBA's best players today. She won MVP last year, and she's won a number of other awards. So this extension isn't really a surprise, but it's part of a larger trend that we've seen in the WNBA and women's sports, but also with Nike. Since Elliott Hill took over as Nike CEO a few months ago, he has made it clear that they want to put athletes and athletes in general back at the center of everything they do for the company. A'ja Wilson is obviously a big part of this, but they've invested in other women's sports basketball players as well, with Juju Watkins at Southern California and Caitlin Clark, who signed an 8-year, $28 million deal with Nike earlier this year. A'ja Wilson is the 5th most followed WNBA player on Instagram with 1.3 million followers. And this further illustrates the game plan that Nike is taking towards putting athletes back at the center of everything they do. This week for the deeper dive, where I give you a play-by-play analysis of news in the sports world and its significance to your bottom line. We're talking about the new 12-team college football playoff. Now, the college football playoff has changed a lot over the years. I mean, even before the college football playoff was put in place, we had the BCS system, which was established in 1997, and then we moved to a 4-team playoff in 2014. Now, the 4-team playoff was seen as a huge advancement because we essentially went from a computer algorithm determining the national championship game to a committee who voted on the 4 best teams. And who doesn't love more football? But after that went on for a decade, we've now moved to a system that has 12 teams rather than 4. Now, this is determined in the same capacity. It's a 13-member committee determining what 12 teams make it, and conference champions from the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, and the top-ranked group of 5 team receive an automatic bid. and the rest are filled out with at-large teams depending on the ranking at the end of the season. Now, the important stuff to know here is that the first-round games are held on campus. We saw it last weekend with games between SMU and Penn State, and we had Indiana visit Notre Dame, Ohio State hosting Tennessee, and other ones like that. But this is going to be a huge success, not only for the teams that get into the playoff, but financially speaking, for everyone involved in all of these conferences. And the reason for this is quite simple. There's more games. Now, if you think about the old college football playoff system, there were really only a handful of games that mattered because there were only 4 teams, 2 rounds of games, handful of games. But now there's 11 games with national championship implications. That has allowed the College Football Playoff Committee to go negotiate a larger deal with ESPN. In fact, they were able to secure a $7.8 billion contract over 6 years with ESPN, worth $1.3 billion annually. This deal was so large and there were so many games that ESPN actually ended up sublicensing a couple of these games to TNT for $25 million each. Now, ESPN still handled the production and they handled the talent for these games, but TNT was able to slap their logo on the games and sell ad inventory against them for commercial breaks to make up some of that money that they would have lost through losing the NBA rights. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this today from a monetary perspective is because the conferences that participate in this tournament are going to be making a ton of money over the next decade. The way that they did the deal initially is that they're going to be rewarding conferences based on historical performance at this point. Now, this could change over time, but the way that it looks today is that they rewarded conferences that have had national championship contenders in the past. So if you look at schools in the SEC and Big Ten, those schools are each going to be receiving $21 million each from the new TV contract. Every ACC school is going to receive $13 million each, and every Big 12 school is going to receive $12 million each. Notre Dame is the odd man out because they're an independent school, but they get a huge check at $12 million too. And then each school in the group of 5 conferences are going to receive $1.8 million each. As I mentioned, this number is going to change over time as the conferences grow or shrink and get better or worse depending on their championship performance. But the numbers can also be higher depending on how schools perform in the playoffs. For example, each school gets $4 million for the early game. So if you make it in the first round, you're getting $4 million automatically into that conference. Then you get $6 million for the semifinals and also another $6 million for the final. So if you win all your games, we're talking about $15, $20 million in additional money that your conference gets for making it all the way to the national championship game. You also get $3 million per game for expenses to be able to transport your team there, etc. Home teams are also able to make some additional money through parking and the local businesses as well. Now, the ticket revenue from these games are going to be collected, so the home teams don't get to keep that money. The way it's going to work is the College Football Playoff has set the fees. Student tickets go for $25. The rest of the tickets are being sold for $150 or $250, excluding clubs and suites on the primary market. Now, what we've seen so far is on the secondary market, some of these tickets are going to be selling for $1,000 or more. But that ticket revenue on the primary market goes back to the College Football Playoff Committee and then gets distributed to the conferences at the end of the tournament. But still, there are a few additional ways where some of these schools can make money by hosting these games. For example, sponsorships throughout the stadium, including the naming rights of the stadium, are going to remain in place. While the College Football Playoff is going to be replacing the goalpost lining, they're going to put logos on the field and things like that. So while many of these sponsorship deals are already negotiated ahead of time, perhaps years ahead of time, if your team continuously makes the playoffs and gets additional impressions for these sponsors, those deals will get larger over time. There's also other ways too, if you think about some of the sponsorships that exist in the stadium, on the concourse and other places like that. But this is something that we should have expected. Look, in my opinion, I don't think it's likely that we're ever going to see a team that's ranked 10th, 11th, or 12th make it to the national championship game and even win the national championship. It's just not to be expected because there's so many variables that have to go right. You have to win 4 straight games to be able to do that. But what I do think happened here is that the College Football Playoff Committee realized that people wanted to see more big-time games. So without being able to shrink the regular season, they added these additional games, and it's bringing in more money for them via television contracts. Now, we'll see if ESPN wants to do this deal again after the new one finishes when it initially starts in 2026. But these rights are only going to get bigger over time, and the conference commissioners are already talking about expanding this tournament from 12 teams to 14 teams, perhaps by 2026. So many people will say that maybe we don't need that many teams. 4 teams was great, or maybe we should have tried 6. But at the end of the day, most fans aren't going to fault them for playing more games, higher level games, and getting some other teams that may not always be in the tournament, like an SMU or an Indiana, to play these big time college football games on big standings and big schedules. We've made it to the one-on-one, a conversation where I get to break down news and sports with a key player in the industry. This week, I'm joined by Olympic gold medalist and captain of the Boston Fleet, Hilary Knight, who's dropping by the show to talk all things PWHL. Hilary, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
I want to get to your new partnership with the Orb Sports Smart Mount Guard here in a little bit, but I want to start with the first season of the PWHL. Obviously, this is sort of an uphill battle, right? Building a sports league from scratch in some instances is never easy, but the league experienced tremendous success in year one with virtually every metric from sponsorships to attendance. What is your take on how things went in year one?
Yeah, I think I'm always in awe of everything that the sport is able to accomplish at this level. Not shocked or surprised, I guess, in that way. But really excited for where the sport is. Extremely fortunate to be involved in the inaugural season, the second season, and now to be able to have a career path in women's hockey at the professional level. It's just so special. So, all great trends for us, and I'm hoping continued success.
Yeah, and you've played in a number of different organizations at different levels. What was this experience like in the inaugural season of the PWHL compared to some other leagues or experiences that you've had?
Yeah, to be honest, never had this experience at this level with with this level of professionalism. I'll say that. Obviously had a lot of experience on the national team level, and that's completely different. But to be able to show up to the rink and have the people around us to support us to be able to perform at our optimum level it's never happened before in women's hockey. So really excited from that standpoint. And then also for the fans to have structure, to know where they're going to be able to watch us play, what our team names are, to be able to be a part of this, legacy and identity, and have their own clubs, their favorite players. So it's never been done before. So it is an amazing feat that the league undertook, and really fortunate that we have the right people in the room to push the sport forward and continue to grow and find success.
Is there anything specific that when you look at the sport, you think needs to be done to make this more mainstream? Obviously, women's hockey in general, but the PWHL specifically?
Yeah, I think it's super critical and important for more U.S. partners to get involved. I'd like to see more, sponsorship and partnerships just from the U.S. side. We obviously have had tremendous success in the Canadian side, and I know the group is working towards securing those partnerships in the United States. But I think women's hockey is going to continue to grow in the States, and it's not necessarily one of those sports where, compared to Canada, everyone has skates and sticks and access to ice. So we're definitely working through those barriers right now, but really excited with the growth so far, and hopefully continued success down here in the United States, because I'm obviously biased, but it's a wonderful sport and a great community to be a part of.
All right, we've got to take a quick break, but we'll be back with Hilary Knight right after this. Welcome back to Yahoo Finance Sports Report. I'm your host, Joe Pompliano. I'm here with Olympic gold medalist and Boston Fleet captain Hilary Knight. The league is only a year old, right? But they've already had talks about expansion. They've mentioned a few different markets. Are there any specific markets that you would be excited to see join the league?
Oh my goodness. I think, anywhere warm is always fun, but it'd be fun to, you're in a Boston winter or a Montreal winter or wherever you may be, and you get to go down to Florida or maybe out west in California. That might be a nice trip. So, but no, I mean, that took us by surprise as well, already an expansion. I mean, how much success do we have in the first year to already be talking expansion? I mean, that's pretty outstanding. So really looking forward to what the future holds and what the league decides to do there.
Yeah, and Billie Jean King is an advisor of the league, and there's a few other big name investors. Mark Walter is obviously financing a lot of it, who owns the Dodgers and a number of other sports organizations as well. What does it mean for you and your teammates to have names like that, the biggest names in sports really, involved in investing in the future of the sport?
Yeah, I mean, it's a level of professionalism. It's a different level of experience, and also a legacy. I mean, when you have Billie Jean King, and that's all you really need to say, right? I mean, everyone understands where tennis was and where she took tennis to, and also to have partners and significant investment from Mark Walter and Kimbra, and from a belief really that we could get this thing up and going and build it into something magnificent. And their team has done a tremendous job to be able to give us the structure to perform and succeed at this level. And I think that's why I'm just so excited. Last year was the first year. This year's the second year, right? And we're really new and green on this. But 5, 8 years down the line, what is women's hockey going to look at the professional level? And so with this structure, it's just outstanding where we were already able to find success. So I'm really looking forward to the future as well.
What do you think that looks like, right? Obviously, it's hard to predict, 5, 6, 7 years down the line.
Yeah.
But based on the current investment, right, fans are showing up, the audience is growing. Are there any kind of expectations that you have around that?
Yeah, I think if, and this is totally outside looking in, right? But, you know, nobody has women's hockey facilities specifically built for women. And so I think
Mhm.
that's really the next step is how do you foster an environment that, just the building that you're walking into is built and designed for women's hockey. Whether that's, the practice rinks or the main facilities where we're playing our games. So I think that's what's really exciting about this is the more success we have, the more buy-in from the community, the more opportunities that we can grow not only at the professional level, but also the grassroots and youth level. And young girls can see that, this building's designed for them. Whether it's the bathroom stalls they get to see or the seating in the arena, different heights of different things. I mean, you name it, the list goes on and on. So, I'm really looking forward to see how this sport evolves.
Given year one was such a success, it's a little bit difficult to forecast year two, given, it's only a few months apart, the two seasons. But what should fans expect for year two of the league?
Year two, I mean, we have team names now. I think that's a huge improvement, right? So being able to identify with your favorite club and your favorite players, and I'm really excited to see what kind of cheers, we're going to get going and what kind of cheering clubs there are, and you know, really hashing out, what is that experience you get that you're going to get being a Boston Fleet fan. So I'm looking forward to that creativity. And also just building off of all our success last year. We obviously came up short in that final game, but what a wonderful opportunity for the inaugural season to be in the Walter Cup finals. And, obviously that comes with more expectations this year.
So you have a partnership with Orb Sports Smart Mouth Guard to make this mouth guard that has a bunch of next gen stats and stuff. Tell me a little bit about what this is for people who may not be familiar with it, but also why you decided to partner with them.
Yeah, the Orb Sport Smart Mouth Guard is, for me, a performance and training device. And, it's something that helps me grab data that I don't necessarily, or before this, haven't had access to on a consistent basis. So for me personally, I'm looking at the heart rate data, the tracking, impact data as well, and figuring out, from that, can I push a little bit harder in training? Do I need to sort of take my foot off the gas pedal a little bit? It's another metric for me to add to my arsenal of how I go about approaching trying to be my best on the ice every single day. So that's why I'm really excited about this partnership. Is it's never been done in a mouth guard before, a smart mouth guard. So that's what's super exciting to me is it's super accurate data, and something I can easily bring to the rink and travel with.
So how does it work? I assume it's a regular mouth guard. It looks normal. You put it in.
Yep.
Maybe it has to be custom fitted or something like that. But then there's sensors in it, and that delivers data to your phone.
Yeah, there's a chip. And so you charge the mouth guard. Obviously, it's got this awesome box that you can sort of just throw in your gym bag or throw in your hockey bag and charge it up.
Yeah.
Open up the app, start the workout, and everything sort of syncs and loads in there. And you can track all, whatever you're looking for, you can kind of track it in the app, and also sync it all up. So, and also tracks, how long your sessions are and things like that as well.
And given this mouth guard is giving you so much data to analyze, what sort of things are you taking away from it and looking at with your training?
Yeah, and two, just like the distance. I mean, I think people were stating, right? So it doesn't, if you were to run a rink, you really understand, okay, I'm using my feet and I'm running, right? And so you feel that. When you're skating, you don't always feel the amount of distance, right? And so that can have a different type of wear and tear on your body, and sometimes good, sometimes bad. So you can track that. Obviously, like heart rate, I think for me is just like critical sort of at my training age right now. And that helps me shape out sort of the training load and combine it with other things that we're keeping track of to try to keep me healthy and at my best when I'm on the ice.
Have you convinced any of your teammates to give a try with the mouth guard yet?
I don't think they've had the opportunity yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if people start using something like this, which is exciting. I can't understate, or state how exciting excited I am, just because there hasn't been a device like this that collects different metric points or data points for us to be able to use. So I'm curious to see like how that unfolds, how it impacts training, long term. So really excited about it all.
All right, last question. If you could wave a magic wand and you were able to get everything you wanted with the PWHL, what does that look like down the road for you?
Oh boy, everything I wanted. I think we would have a built venue in every major city that we're in. And we get priority ice and whatnot from like a booking standpoint. Um, yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing. Practice facilities, obviously charters are big, increased salaries. I mean, you know, we could do everything, but just like 2x it, right? And so I think that's what's exciting is we're well on our way there. You just have to start somewhere.
Well, you said it. With the current trajectory of the league, with attendance and viewership and sponsorship, some of that stuff may be closer than you imagine. But thanks so much for joining us, Hilary. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
The clock is winding down here, but we have just enough time for some final buzz. So I want to leave you all today by talking about the new TGL Golf League. Now, for those who haven't seen, this is a new indoor simulator-based golf league started by Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. The first match officially tees off on January 7th, 2025. Now, TGL stands for Tomorrow's Golf League, and the way it works is fairly simple. There are 6 teams of 4 players made up by PGA Tour players. Each match will be played in the 1,500-seat SoFi Center in Palm Beach, Florida, and they're going to air in prime time on ESPN and ESPN+. But the reason why I'm so excited about seeing how this league goes is because if you think about professional golf, golf is really one of the only sports in the world where the amateur level is growing so fast, but it hasn't really translated to the professional level. Now, there's a variety of reasons for this, including the division caused by the PGA Tour and Live Golf. But more so, I think it's because the PGA Tour and professional golf in general isn't a great TV product for today's environment. Think about it this way. Consumption habits have changed. People want shorter matches in action-packed environments with mic'd up players. That is what TGL offers. All of the players are going to be mic'd up. There's going to be a shot clock. All of the matches are going to take 2 hours less, and they're going to take over the Monday Night Football slot in prime time once football season ends. I think this is going to be very highly produced. There's going to be smoke screens, great camera angles. It's all on an indoor course. Every shot is going to be aired. There's going to be trash talking between the players. And the setup is actually really cool with a bunch of high-tech stuff. If you think about the simulator itself, it's basically this massive IMAX screen, which the players will hit their tee shots into, and essentially any shot longer than 50 yards. Then anything that's 50 yards or less, they're going to turn around and hit onto the screen that's in the actual venue itself. So there's bunkers and everything like that. But then when you get on the green is able to turn and contort to a way that it can basically take any green anywhere in the world. Think about Augusta National. If you want the 12th green at Augusta, you can make the green look like that and slope like that to where the players have a real challenge. We've never seen anything like this in professional sports, this combination of star athletes in prime time with a condensed format and high tech. And I think that it's going to be a great indication of where the future of sports is headed. Now, this isn't going to cannibalize the PGA Tour or Live Golf. In fact, the PGA Tour is an investor in the league, owning about 18% of the league itself. But I think it is a good case study to see how the future of sports will look with this condensed sports format. We're all out of time, so it's officially game over for this week. Thank you so much to Hilary Knight and for all of you for joining us. Make sure to tune into Yahoo Finance Sports Reports on Thursdays at 5 p.m. wherever you get your podcast. I'm your host, Joe Pompliano. See you next time.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.